The Senate inquiry into the mis- and disinformation bill just held its last hearing, and I've said from the start that I have serious concerns about this bill. But like with all legislation, I'm committed to engaging in good faith to learn more so I can make a decision based on the evidence and the feedback I receive. I've listened to the experts and to people in the ACT, and I'll be opposing the Combating Misinformation Disinformation Bill unless major changes are made to the legislation. Because as it stands, I don't believe it takes the right approach to dealing with misinformation. Freedom of speech and the freedom to protest are critical parts of our democracy. And in Australia, we don't have an overarching Human Rights Act that entrenches these rights. So we need to tread very carefully whenever we make changes that may impact on them. And we've very worryingly seen Labor and Liberal governments crack down on people's right to protest at a state level. There's no doubt that mis- and disinformation is causing harm, but people are also entitled to their opinion, whatever it may be. And it seems that the issue is not people with 100 or 1,000 followers online saying things, but more with social media algorithms that then boost that content to others. So I find it very strange that the government wants to trust these giant corporations who have at best very questionable reputations with deciding what is or isn't mis- and disinformation. We'll be in a situation where we likely have algorithms boosting stuff based on engagement and then another algorithm sifting through and deciding what of that is and isn't disinformation. And at the same time, the government keeps delaying meaningful changes to the Privacy Act that would actually go a lot further to protecting Australians online. The truth is really hard to define and often changes over time. So there's a risk platforms could just end up unintentionally censoring people. This was highlighted by the Human Rights Law Centre, constitutional law expert Professor Anne Toomey, the Victorian Bar Association and the Human Rights Commission, who've all expressed serious concerns about how this bill has been drafted and how it would operate. What I would like to see is far more transparency through data access for researchers so that we can better understand how these companies operate and how content is prioritized. We have no idea how they're making these decisions, and there needs to be more transparency. We don't allow companies to just sell medicines or food without listing the ingredients. So why do we allow social media giants to get away with no transparency? Regardless of whether a post is about health, politics, culture, or anything else, we should have access to data so that we can understand how platforms are seeking to influence us through what they promote and prioritize or what they deprioritize and don't share as much. The thing that kept being raised in the Senate committee process is that one of the biggest issues in propagating and spreading mis- and disinformation is bots, is non-human actors. And what we established through the committee process is that bots have no freedom of expression. They've got no human rights. And there's widespread agreement that social media companies should have an obligation to remove all bots that are impersonating humans. All legitimate bots that answer questions or maybe unfurl tweets should be clearly labelled as non-human so people know that. Unfortunately, that's not the approach the government has taken. They've gone with what seems like a pretty unworkable system where social media companies decide what is and isn't mis- or disinformation. We need to do better and actually tackle the root causes of the spread of mis- and disinformation. Non-human actors or bots, and then algorithms that are holding attention and therefore making money ahead of good faith debate and social cohesion. I'll be suggesting a range of ways to do that in my comments to the Senate committee report, and we'll share them once it's published. But really want to thank everyone who has engaged with me and my office on this bill.